The Merchant of Venice, Act 1, Scene 3. Harold Bloom of Yale University wrote that no previous character in the plays, up until The Merchant of Venice, has had anything like Shylock's strength, complexity, and vital potential. His largeness on a scale of being, and that so resourceful a spirit, should have reduced itself to a lust for weighing out a pound of Antonio's flesh upon a literal scale, is the most terrible of Shakespeare's ironies. So what is behind this? Why does Shylock have a psychic fixation with a pound of Antonio's flesh? Freud says that every psychological problem is well worth the effort of investigation. And Freud offers us a possible understanding of this, entering into the study of taboos. For Shylock has a compulsive repulsion towards expenditure or improvidence with money. A taboo that does involve extraordinary renunciation and restrictions of life. In this scene, Shylock reveals that what he hates most about Antonio is that he lends out money gratis or free. And throughout this scene, Shylock exhibits an excessive fear over the loss of wealth. He describes his home sweet home as a place he must see to, left in the fearful guard of an unthrifty knave, his servant. And when this servant leaves him later on in the play, unable to endure Shylock's avarice and the proud man's contumely, Shylock speaks to him on his way out. "Thou shalt not gormandize as thou hast done with me." Freud says that the taboos of others may strike us as incomprehensible, foolish, and even senseless. In this scene, Shylock describes a merchant's loss at sea with the imagery of nibbling rats, thieves, and pirates. In contrast, in Act 1, Scene 1, Antonio and his entourage describe a merchant's loss at sea or a shipwreck, with dangerous rocks, which touching but my gentle vessel's side, would scatter all her spices on the stream, enrobe the roaring waters with my silks. Here phenomenal wealth is accumulated, only to be splendidly dispersed. This scene for Shylock would not be so poetically and beautifully felt. It would fill him with a holy dread. Freud suggests that to waste money as carelessly and freely as Antonio does threatens Shylock, in that unconsciously Shylock would like nothing better than to transgress, but is afraid to do it. And an individual like Antonio becomes taboo because he has the dangerous property of tempting others to follow his example. And he arouses envy. Why should he be allowed to do what is prohibited? He is really contagious in that every example incites to imitation, and therefore he must be avoided, or in Shylock's case, Antonio must be killed. Freud says that whenever a taboo is violated, automatic punishment is expected. Primal man believed this to be done with the powers of the Godhead. But with the further development of the idea, society took over the punishment of the offender. But this is not a simple, straightforward thing here. Shakespeare creates a taboo rivalry, and it gets really intense. Shylock's taking of interest or the practice of usury is prohibited to Antonio. And according to Freud, he sees Shylock as the one who's unholy or in an unclean state. And it is mentioned more than once in this scene how Antonio voids his room or spits upon Shylock's beard. And Freud says this places Shylock in a need for exorcism through acts of penance or ceremonies of purification. A purification which comes in Act 4, Scene 1, when Antonio forces Shylock to convert to Christianity. So the play has this incredible tension between adversaries and opposing taboos, which calls for the extraction of one another's heart. For Shylock, this is in a physical sense, weighing out a pound of flesh cut nearest to the region of Antonio's heart. And for Antonio, this is done in a spiritual sense, calling for the heart of Shylock's soul.